Hi, this is Julie Peterson. The class I selected for my problem-solving activity is my College in the Schools college algebra class. The class contains mostly high school seniors, but it does have a few juniors as well. For most of them, math is not their favorite subject. They typically have gotten B's and C's in Algebra 2. They don't feel they're very strong in math, but either they wanted one more course before heading to college or the college was requiring a fourth year, and they really didn't feel they were able to take pre-calc or AP stats. I chose this course because typically students struggle with word problems. They have such a low opinion of their own abilities, and I think they are in desperate need of some problem-solving strategies and learning ways that they can make decisions when they leave high school. So the learning goal that I selected was that students can apply various methods to solve systems of equations. I chose this particular learning goal because matrices are new to them. Much of the content in our course is just a slight extension of things they've learned in Algebra 2, and I wanted them to get a deeper understanding about why they're being taught matrices and how they can help them make solving systems a little easier. For a background, students know how to solve systems with 2 and 3 variables using methods like substitution and linear combination. My purpose with this activity is to introduce the solving of systems with matrices. I talked a little bit about my rationale already, but typically students have a real problem with word problems that contain a lot of data. They have trouble organizing it, figuring out how they can convert it into equations and that type of thing. And so I want them to learn some strategies so that word problems aren't so scary for them, and to see how the things they're learning apply to them in the real world. So a typical problem in our book would be something like this. The nutritional content per ounce of 3 foods is presented in the table on the right. If a meal consisting of the 3 foods allows exactly 1,200 calories, 55 grams of protein, and 750 milligrams of vitamin C, how many ounces of each kind of food should be used? So in this question, all of the data is laid out for them in a chart format. They really don't have much organizing to do, and I wanted them to have that opportunity to learn that skill, so I'm taking that organization away. How I will present this activity, it will be kind of an introduction to our matrix unit. Students will be working in groups. They typically sit at tables in groups of 3 or 4, so they will feel comfortable with the kids that they are working with. Expectations would be that groups need to work together to be productive. They need to be able to defend their solution. I'm really leaving this pretty open-ended for them, so I'm not telling them what process to go through. They will complete the first part of it where they choose the foods they're going to use and find some data, nutritional data about those foods while we are learning about matrices, and then we will use the whole problem to kind of wrap up the unit. So the task I'm going to give them, they need to select 3 foods that the group thinks would help meet the following requirements. Your foods must provide the 1,200 calories, 55 grams of protein, and 750 milligrams of vitamin C from the previous problem. But again, I'm taking away all of the chart information. They are to determine how much of each food they will need to eat to meet those requirements. And if you're unable to meet the requirements with the chosen foods, explain why. I did develop some extension questions for those who finish a little earlier. If you were unable to meet the requirements, what other foods might be better choices? What if you run out of one of the foods? Could you still meet the requirements? And what does your meal cost? Is your meal better than those of the other groups? Why or why not? My hope with this problem is that they will choose to use a matrix, but obviously there are other methods for solving systems, so they may choose to go with one of those by hand methods. I do feel it would be a good opportunity to look at analyzing the pros and cons of each method, and groups can discuss why they felt their method was better as well. While they're working through the problem, I do have a problem-solving journal that they can keep track of their process, things that they should look at, whether they're understanding the problem or not. Some questions to ask themselves: what are you asked to do? What kind of information are you given? And what would a solution look like? When they are making their plan, they can ask themselves questions like, how could you start? Have you done anything similar before? How could you organize your information? And what information do you still need to find? While they're working and carrying out that plan, Some questions to ask themselves: what was your initial attempt? What worked and what didn't work? And what adjustments did you need to make? I do expect them to have all of their work shown and so that they can support their answer. Once they finish, some reflection questions like what strategies or decisions were most helpful and why? How does this problem relate to ones you've attempted before? What new skills have you learned? And what might you use, or what might you use, how might you use what you've learned in the future? The thing I like about this activity is it's not the typical problem where they just plug and chug information they're given. They've gotten into the habit of using a method that they've been taught, and they expect to be able to use that for all kinds of problems. And I want them to realize that's not the case. It is an open-ended question. It allows them to do some investigating of foods on their own. It allows for collaboration and communication skills. And it gives them some decision-making and ways to analyze those decisions to see if they were the best or if there were maybe some things they could have chosen differently. I like that this question allows them to find their own data rather than just being given it in a chart. And it allows them to fail. They can choose foods that don't really work, and then they can decide what they could have done differently. And I feel this question pertains to all kids. As parents, we want them to learn about healthy eating, and this allows them to kind of investigate some of the foods they typically eat and whether they are very healthy or not. Thank you.